recognize that guitar version of More Than Words, and that's the title of this little lesson on vocabulary and economics. And in particular, I want to work on the concept of supply as opposed to the concept of quantity supply. These are often confused, probably for good reason, because so often in regular life the terms are used interchangeably. But in classroom economics there is a distinction, and this distinction is crucial to understanding and building your sense of the logic of economic thinking. So I'm going to try something I haven't really tried in class before. Sometimes I make this kind of point in this particular approach. I take this approach with students that I work with individually in office hours. But we'll try it, we'll see what happens, and then hopefully this will help you. But some of the points I'm going to make are in the book towards the end of the supply chapter, where I try to make that distinction and work on 3 ways to try to get it clear in your own mind. But let's begin and let's see where we wind up. All right, so here we go. I want you to consider a statement, something like this, a statement like this that you can hear every so often. Oh, my taxes went up. My taxes went up. Okay, so obviously I'm taking a slightly different angle on how to approach this lesson here, but think about this statement, my taxes went up. That statement is consistent with 2 possibilities. Okay. The first possibility is, well, let's say this. I'll make a schedule with income and tax liabilities. And let's say the incomes are $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. And the tax liability is $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Sometimes when people say, my taxes went up, they mean, well, I started earning some more money, and as a result, notice how I said as a result, my tax liability increased. Okay, that's an easy and understandable statement. When you do make more income, you can look at your tax schedule and you'll find you owe more money. And that's one thing, that's one possibility. But another way your individual taxes could go up is if the tax rate was increased in a more general sort of way. The tax rate increased in a more general way. You see, when I built this little schedule, this little table, I was using a tax rate of 10%. 10% of 10,000, 1,000. 10% of 20,000, 2,000. 10% of 30,000, 3,000. When your income goes up, you owe more taxes. But suppose the rate went up from 10% to 20%. That would involve a general increase. It would involve the governor of the state, or the president of the United States, Congress, the legislatures, whatever the case may be, to agree to a general increase in taxes for everybody. And if that were the case, we'd have to rewrite the whole entire schedule. At $10,000 income, the tax burden would now be $2,000. At $20,000 income, the tax burden would be $4,000. And finally at $30,000, the tax burden would be $6,000. This situation is different than this situation. Agreed? This is assuming a tax of 10%, an individual's income rises. This is a general change in the rate where everybody's tax would increase. Now I want you to imagine then, we could graph this. Okay? I'm going to graph income, tax, like so. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 10K, 20K, 30K. Tax, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. All right, I've laid out all the groundwork for plotting points. $10,000 income on a 10% tax rate. Tax is $1,000. $20,000 income. Tax liability is $2,000. And then $3,000 tax burden, tax liability for an income of $30,000. Connect the dots, we have a positive relationship. My taxes went up. If your income is $10,000 and goes up to $30,000, yes, we'll move from point A to point, I'll call this C. Obviously that's a B there. You go from this point to that point if your income rises from $10,000 to $30,000. Yep, the tax burden will go from $1,000 to $3,000. My taxes went up. Now, suppose the rate increased. What would happen? Well, 20% we saw doubles the tax liability. Let's plot those points in a different color. $10,000, $2,000, over to the right. $20,000 income, $4,000. Well, I have to go way out there, don't I? I didn't make my picture long enough. Anyway, my axis quite long. But wait, here we go. There's another brown dot. Over to the right. I'll write out 4,000 there. 5,000, 6,000. All right, final point to plot. $30,000 income, $6,000 tax liability. From the pink dot, C, over to the right. What's happened? I connect these dots. I connect these dots. Right? I have a whole nother relationship. As I emphasize in class, supply is a relationship. Okay? The pink line was yesterday. Now taxes are higher for everybody. The whole line shifts. So, I'm trying to point out, a statement like this, my taxes went up, is sort of ambiguous. It could mean a couple things. And we have to ask more questions to figure out, well, is it this or is it this? This instance or another example? Why am I going through this little example? It's analogous to what happens as we try to distinguish supply from quantity supply. Because the common denominator, to some extent, is that it involves this thing called Q, called quantity. Supply has something to do with quantity, and quantity supply has something to do with quantity, right? But they're different, and they're different in the same way these ideas are different. So, let's see what happens. Oh, the market was in a situation where the amount that got sold, I'm in trouble here obviously, where the amount that got sold increased. The amount sold increased. The amount sold increased. All right, let's take out a P and Q thing here. Well, the amount sold has something to do with that quantity concept, right? And we know this happened. The amount sold increased. But you see, that's consistent with two possibilities. It could mean, along a given supply curve where there's a given PQ schedule, that we move from point A to point C. And instead of selling 100, or maybe I should say producing and delivering 100 at a price of 15, the price went up to 30, and the firm felt the incentive to produce more, like 300. And so we are describing a situation where price is acting as an incentive to motivate a greater amount that gets produced, delivered, and eventually sold in a market. What scenario would this be consistent with? Watch this. There's the demand for roses in December. Here's the demand for roses in February. The price of a dozen roses doubled, but between December and February, demand climbed. Or rather, I said but, as though there was a contrast. The price doubled precisely because the demand rose. And that provided an incentive, that higher price did, provided an incentive for firms to deliver more. They adjusted, and they did so. But that's just one scenario as to how more can be delivered and sold in the market. Here's another scenario where I'll get the same observable result where the amount sold increases, but I'll do something entirely different. I'm shifting supply to the right. What happens in that instance? Well, here's our point A. The price is 100. And here's our point B. The price is 50. The price went down. Why did the price go down? Well, the supply shifted. Why did the supply shift? Probably because, or the way we're describing this situation, certainly because some non-price factor, some non-price determinant changed. Like what? Like maybe technology. And when technology changes, firms can do more with resources. It's cheaper to produce as a result of efficiencies created by this advance in technology. So we say, in general, production is easier than before, faster than before, whatever. And as a result, price went down. And then what happened? People bought more. So this quantity and amount sold goes up because people reacted to the price, but these people being consumers or households. The motivating factor for that was a change in technology. So the sequence would be, oh, there's a change in technology, there's an increase in supply, and that increase in supply resulted in the price falling, and that resulted in the quantity demanded going up. That's a very different scenario than talking about, well, demand increased, and firms are simply reacting to the price itself. So that here we're looking at consumers reacting to a price. Here we're looking at firms reacting to the price. When we're meditating on supply, we may have a price factor, right? We may have a price factor that motivates firms to deliver more. Price goes up, implicitly because demand went up. The price went up, and firms reacted to that and delivered more. So price up, quantity up, quantity supplied up. And the whole thing is illustrating the law of supply. Price here is acting as a cause for what firms do in terms of their production, delivery, and potential sales in the market. Price is the factor. But in this scenario, the original factor is one of those non-price determinants, like technology, like natural events, like number of sellers, like taxes and subsidies, like long-run profitability. That is a more general sort of change and brings about eventually a decline in the price. So here price is the cause on the supply side, and here price is the effect on the supply side. The effect of a non-price factor shifting supply, creating a general change. Here we're looking at something more limited and distinct to illustrate the law of supply. So one of the things you have to meditate on is how price can be a cause and bring about some reaction amongst firms. And when we're thinking about that, we're moving along a single supply curve. Then there are other situations where price is an effect of general, broad, sweeping changes in production to make production more available, less difficult, less expensive, etc., etc. And that has a generalized impact on what's going on, which will eventually result in the amount sold increasing, but only after consumers react to price declines. Okay, I'm going to stop here, see how this video goes. I'm going to try to upload it. I'm doing this in the morning of December 29th, I believe, right? Yeah. And Spot, as always, is my helper. I think he was a little scared in the beginning. Sometimes he gets scared of the music. Well, whatever. Anyway, thank you, Spot. Thank you, everybody. I hope this gets up real soon, so you can